Byakuya Kuchiki vs Itachi Uchiha. For Byakuya, I'll be using his post-Royal Palace state, along with any discernible implications from his end-of-series state. For Itachi, I'll be using feats from the novels to establish the fundamentals, feats from his Akatsuki days shown in the manga. I will also use feats from Edo Itachi, which might apply. Material from the Bleach novels will also be used, and references will be made to their character books. I'll be comparing their power, durability, speed, intelligence, and their numerous abilities side by side, and then I'll make a final comparison and tell you who I think would win. In order to touch, see, and hear spiritual beings from Bleach, one must possess spirit energy. Itachi does possess spiritual energy as he has chakra, which is a combination of spiritual energy and the physical energy from the body's cells. As such, he'll be able to see, touch, interact with, and sense Byakuya Kuchiki. It is important that we don't confuse the Shinigami from Bleach with the Shinigami from Naruto, the latter being a forbidden summoning jutsu with hidden properties, while spiritual energy would be the equalizer between both verses. As a child, Itachi witnessed the desolation on the battlefield resulting from the Third Great Ninja War, an event which almost forced him to unlock his Sharingan. Due to this experience, Itachi, being a pacifist, found his motivation for power. If he became the most powerful ninja ever, he could force others to stop fighting and discourage others from starting conflicts. This motivation led Itachi to study every ninja material he could find, from sage mode to ninjutsu, and gave him the push to sharpen his skills and train daily. He was even inspired to become the Hokage, as this would have allowed him to spread that influence on a global scale. In order to prevent a coup d'etat from the Uchiha clan and war with the Hidden Leaf village, Itachi partnered with Obito Uchiha, whom he knew as Madara Uchiha, and together they slaughtered the Uchiha clan, with the exception of Sasuke Uchiha, Itachi's little brother. He would later go on to join an organization known as Akatsuki, where he acted as a spy for the Hidden Leaf village. Byakuya Kuchiki is the captain of company number 6 in the 13 court guard squads. He is also the 28th head of the Kuchiki clan, one of the Soul Society's 4 great noble houses. He is also reputed as the greatest leader of the Kuchiki clan and the most famous in the 13 court guard squads. With such an exalted position, he was forced to choose between upholding the law or protecting his adopted sister, Rukia Kuchiki. After losing to Ichigo Kurosaki in a battle of ideologies, he began protecting his adopted sister, and later revealed that Rukia's sister was in fact his late wife, Hisana. And from that moment on, he watched over and protected Rukia. Part 1 Kakashi was so inferior to Orochimaru that the latter's presence alone was enough to overwhelm Kakashi, despite this Kakashi being amped by Raikiri, and despite his reputation of being the strongest ninja in the village, or at the very least the strongest Jonin. This same Orochimaru, who was inferior to Itachi, was still so powerful that even Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, had doubts about being able to beat him, even considering Hiruzen's reputation as the strongest of the 5 Kage. This was stated by Kabuto, one of the greatest spies in the entire manga, someone who excelled at gathering intel. Among these other 5 Kage was Yagura, the perfect Jinchuriki of the 3 tails, the Raikage who could output tail beast level energy, and Onoki, who possessed a Kekkei Tota, the particle style. This would already grant Itachi the power to fight at a Biju or perfect Jinchuriki level. But let's go further. Itachi is one of the strongest members of the Akatsuki. In this organization, they are placed in pairs, with each pair having the power to take on and defeat both Biju and perfect Jinchuriki. The Akatsuki members have specialties including hacks and raw power, or a combination of both. Orochimaru uses 8-headed serpent form against Itachi Susanoo, and while Itachi was close to death, he was able to physically clash with the 8-headed serpent, and showed the ability to slice through and pierce its main body with the Totsuka blade. Again, these are Biju and Jinchuriki level opponents. The tail beast bombs have shown the power to wipe out entire mountains, and if you factor things like pulverization and vaporization, the resulting attack potency increases to island and country level, with the highest end going up to possibly continent or multi-continental levels. Using labels like country level and such makes for a better cross-verse comparison. It should also be noted that A-Tails can withstand the explosion from its own Biju bomb, the same A-Tails who could be burnt by Amaterasu, which at the time of Itachi's death was described as the highest fire jutsu, something Itachi can also produce. Now let's talk about the power of Byakuya Kuchiki. 2 things were prohibited under the canopy of Las Noches: the release of an espada 4 and below, and the use of a Gran Rey Zero from any espada. This was because if the user wasn't careful, these things could destroy the fortress of Las Noches itself. This rule was set by Sosuke Aizen, who was not only a scientist, but also excelled at measuring spirit energy output. In Canfairy Own World, it was explained that the espada don't allow their zeros to diffuse in all directions. Instead, they are condensed into narrow beams of spiritual light to make them more powerful. This This is why Seros, including Granway Seros, tend to have a smaller area of effect, but still contain enough concentrated energy even for lower end espada like Aruñero to destroy Las Noches. Furthermore, it was explained that a typical Vastalorde concentrated several 100,000 Menos Grandes worth of spiritual pressure inside a human-sized body. Note that the Menos class consists of Gillian, Adhuchas, and Vastalorde. So a typical Vastalorde has the power of hundreds of thousands of beings ranging from Gillians, Adhuchas, and other Vastalorde. This would mean that the gap between Gillian class espada like Aruñero and exceptional Vastalorde like Stark and Baragon would be represented by similar numbers. The espadas are ranked according to their raw power, as well as the lethality and potency of their special abilities. Yami's rank of 0, accompanied by multiple novel and databook statements of him being the strongest espada, would place his attack potency and power level beyond the aforementioned Stark and Baragon. Byakuya and Kenpachi were able to take attacks from and cut down Yami's final form. Concerning Yami's final form, it was stated that he inflicted serious injuries on Kenpachi and Byakuya, and that his power was worthy of Espada 0. In the Nesta Tonight short story, it was stated that Yami used up all the power of that form against Byakuya and Kenpachi. In the Spirits Are Forever With You novel, Cien Granz's power completely dwarfed Yami Realgo's 0 form, and the Kenpachi was able to match Cien Granz went from being fodder to base Unohana to being able to defeat her Bankai with his base sword. This Kenpachi had to upgrade his power multiple levels beyond base form to take on giant form Gerard. And following a massive power growth from Royal Palace training, Byakuya was able to destroy the head of a stronger Gerard with Ika Senjinka, a Gerard who was only superficially frozen. This is not to say that Byakuya would just beat Unohana in every category, and this Kenpachi is nothing compared to his later Kanfir own world version, but it shows that Byakuya's higher Bankai forms can at least affect beings at Gerard's level, which is quite a jump in power above the espadas. Las Noches is oftentimes compared to a small country. I'll use a lower end of island size since it takes at least 3 days to traverse one side to the front gate. This means that beings like Aruñero will be able to output island level energy with their Granway Zero. This amount of energy would then be surpassed hundreds of thousands of times over by the upper level Vastalorde class espada, only to be dwarfed by Cien Granz's base form. That multi-continental level of power would more than likely be reached even before getting to Gerard Valkyrie's Volstandic form, so I would give attack power to Byakuya Kuchiki. Both Byakuya and Itachi are quite versed where abilities are concerned. Itachi specializes in fire, water, and wind release, alongside fundamental releases like yin and yang. Yang release is associated with the body's stamina and is founded upon physical energies. It can create special chakra which emphasizes physical energy as shown in the technique of the Akimichi clan. Therefore, in a clash of taijutsu, Itachi can directly amp his physical striking power by using mostly physical energy. At the age of 5, Itachi was able to channel enough chakra into his fist and use it to smash an enormous incoming boulder, demonstrating his prowess with yang release and his immense chakra control. He can use a fire-style Phoenix Flower Jutsu to increase the attack power of his shuriken, and is exceptional in the use of the powerful fire-style Fireball Jutsu, a technique created by the Uchiha clan. The water-style Water Bullet Jutsu, which he can use without showing his hand signs, accompanied by any other wind, fire, and water jutsu, which he should also be able to use. Itachi also excels in the area of taijutsu, even more so than Byakuya has shown. Even at a young age, he was already extremely prodigious in the area of shuriken jutsu. And even in his fight against Edo Nagato, he could destroy the latter's field of vision by launching multiple shuriken along curved paths from Nagato's blind spot. He excels in the use of shadow clones, which he can use for distraction or to attack the opponent from multiple directions. He's also known for making his shadow clones explode at close range. Now, Itachi's greatest weapon in this fight is undoubtedly the Sharingan. The Eye of Insight allows Itachi to read the opponent's movements through simple things like muscle tension, which allows him to read things like taijutsu movements as well as the path of projectiles. The Eye of Insight can also see chakra as different colors and tell how much chakra the opponent has left, and to a certain extent can see chakra through solid objects. Basic Genjutsu uses the 5 senses as bridges to seize control of the chakra in the cranial nerves. Once that control is gained, illusions are created. This type of Genjutsu can be broken by releasing a strong pulse of energy to disrupt the chakra, or by having a partner channel their energy into you for the same purpose. Although this type of Genjutsu is not likely to work on someone like Byakuya, who doesn't possess chakra. But this changes with advanced ocular Genjutsu such as the Mangekyo Sharingan, which in fact inserts chakra into the opponent through their eyes, such as the Tsukuyomi, which grants Itachi control over time, space, and physical mass in the Nightmare realm. The time that passes in this genjutsu can also be 1/100th of 1/1000th of 1/1,000,000th of that of the real world. And because in the real world this happens in a short instance, your partner will not get the time to break you out of the genjutsu. Itachi can also record multiple snapshots of his and the opponent's physical senses to cast a looped genjutsu called Izanami, which can only be broken when and if the opponent accepts their true self. However, this genjutsu is quite risky to use as it requires some time for preparation, and it causes the user to lose sight in one eye. Itachi can also use a Koto Amatsukami, which does not require direct eye contact with the caster, and controls the target without them realizing. His eyes can produce the Amaterasu, which ignites along his line of vision, and is not extinguished until the target is fully burned. He has Susanoo, which can withstand attacks from Orochimaru's strongest jutsu. It can produce his strongest long-distance jutsu, the Yasaka beads. However, his most impressive Susanoo weapons are the Totsuka blade and Yata mirror. They are both spiritual weapons which can fend off attacks both spiritual and physical. The Totsuka blade contains a sealing jutsu which drags whomever it pierces into a world, a dimension of drunken dreams. And the Yata mirror can change every one of its properties to fit the situation. Itachi also uses ninja art crow summoning to distract his opponent. Even as a child, he decided that crows would be more distracting than a simple substitution log. Byakuya Kuchiki is a master swordsman with over 100 years of experience. Even at high speed, he can use Senka to assault weak spots of other Shinigami with his sword. His Shikai Senbonzakura allows him to scatter his Zanpakuto into 1,000 cherry blossom blades, which he can use both offensively and defensively at high speeds. His Bankai Senbonzakura Kageyoshi multiplies these blades to the hundreds of millions, and can increase its power by going into Gokei Senbonzakura Kageyoshi, which attacks the enemy from all directions, or Senkei, which concentrates the blades into 1,000 swords, explosively increasing their attack power, or Ikka Senjinka, which uses all the Senkei blades simultaneously as projectiles, and Shukei Hakuteiken, which focuses all the lethality and spiritual power of the Senkei blades into one sword. Byakuya is a master of spirit energy manipulation and Kido, with which he can summon powerful elemental spells like Sokatsui and Tenran, or lightning-based spells like Raikoho. He can use Bakudo or binding spells like Rikujo Koro to bind or seal opponents away, or powerful barriers to block or repel attacks. Between binding and destruction spells, Byakuya has almost 200 techniques, which I believe will grant him more versatility than Itachi. And while Byakuya does possess quite a few hacks, such as this Zanpakuto which can cut through souls, I believe Itachi possesses more hacks than Byakuya, with things like Koto Amatsukami, Tsukuyomi, Izanami, and so on. For durability, I'll be sticking to more quantifiable feats. And since both characters have multiple light-based speed statements and feats, which can either be supported as well as debunked, personally I'll be using more lower-end speed feats. For example, Black Zetsu believed that evading lightning, or acting in 1,000th of a second, would be a high-end feat for Akatsuki members, although I think better arguments can be made for Edo Itachi. There are also better feats from the novels where Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan was able to capture an opponent in roughly 1/1000th of a second. So even if you think that Itachi activated Susanoo before the Kirin came down, the Mangekyo Sharingan speed feat from the novels would make his reaction to the Kirin also plausible. For Bleach, people like Tokinada, who are comparable to Byakuya and Shunsui in speed, can effortlessly handle lightning speed attacks. Byakuya was also shown to have a comparable or better reaction than a post-Royal Palace Renji, the same Renji who could handle Volstandig Master Masculine, whose lesser form was able to blitz Kensei Muguruma. Kensei's speed being in the same ballpark as the Visor Lieutenants who were able to react to Haribel. Haribel being faster than a Soul Society arc Toshiro, who was able to react to Gin Shikai before he could pierce his eye. For the most part, I believe Byakuya is faster. Not only does he have speed feats against Gerard's final form, but he keeps getting amped throughout pretty much the entire story, while Itachi's sickness acts as more of a detriment to his own speed. And ignoring the light-based statements which both verses seem to have throughout their entire story, Byakuya's speed is more consistent. Itachi's durability is also insane because he's had to live and fight with his sickness, but his most impressive durability feats are attributed to his Susanoo, as his Susanoo takes the brunt of the attacks such as Kirin or Orochimaru's 8-headed serpent. Byakuya could flash step away from the fight with Ichigo and take an attack from Gin's Shikai after being slashed by White and getting sandwiched by Bankai level Black Getsugas. Before Royal Palace training, he also managed to withstand an assault from his own Bankai before being taken down by numerous additional assaults. Based on feats, I will give tactical intelligence to Itachi Uchiha, especially due to his unorthodox fighting method and his ability to find a weakness in the opponent's jutsu. Although Byakuya is no slouch with a 90 out of 100 for intelligence, and due to having more experience with his own fighting arts, which he's been training in for more than 110 years. While Itachi would still be more experienced with things like espionage and stealth. Although given Byakuya's intelligence and versatility, he can simply adopt his fighting method to match unorthodox opponents, even multiple opponents with different abilities. Itachi's win conditions would most likely be Genjutsu. Izanami would be the most difficult to use due to the time taken to prepare it. Byakuya also doesn't seem to have any issue accepting his own fate, which is the same weakness Itachi himself mentioned, so Tsukiyomi or Kotoa Matsukami would be the better options. For the most part, Genjutsu falls in the realm of yin release, which utilizes spiritual energy. Genjutsu chakra would contain a tremendous amount of spiritual energy, and the mental realm of Tsukuyomi would also mostly be governed by spiritual power. Byakuya's powerful spiritual senses, known as Reikaku, would more than likely be able to detect the Genjutsu chakra. This is because it would allow him to trace the activity of spiritual energy even unconsciously. In fact, these senses are so sharp that he can trace the activity of things down to the spiritual particulate level, observing reishi, which is a spiritual equivalent for atoms and molecules. Even a slight vibration or disturbance in spiritual pressure can be traced over long distances, spiritual pressure being even more fundamental than reishi, but that's a discussion for another day. This leads me to believe that Byakuya would sense the ocular release and evade it, or erect a Kido barrier. Byakuya has fought Espada number 7, Zomariruru, who uses ocular techniques, and the moment Zomari's eye transformed, even without knowing what's happening, Byakuya instantaneously evaded. He also has experience with blocking ocular emissions with Kido barriers. When he encountered Volstandig as not another user of ocular abilities, he immediately destroyed the latter's eyes before he could capture his gaze. If Itachi manages to land the Tsukuyomi though, he would have the advantage. Tsukuyomi can go on for days in the inner world, but the time taken in the external world is way too short for your partner to break you out of the Genjutsu. Tsukuyomi takes advantage of this time difference. Naruto Uzumaki, who was also a Jinchuriki, believed this to be the case for other Jinchuriki as well. And although I believe Itachi would have the advantage if he used Tsukuyomi, I also believe Byakuya has a way to escape. Physical abilities like a body made of iron or your speed stop being relevant as you are dragged inside of a mental realm. But as the basis for Itachi's mental abilities would more than likely be spiritual energy. Byakuya could potentially put up some resistance with his own spiritual energy, as Shinigami are also experienced with fighting in the mental realm with their own Zanpakuto spirits. And unlike an external partner or potentially a tailed beast, Zanpakuto can perceive the internal time the same way as a Shinigami does. This was proven when Asashiro took Mayuri's superhuman drug, which makes 1 second in the external world appear to be 100 years in the internal world, and the Zanpakuto is able to perceive time the same way as Asashiro. So Senbon Sakura could potentially break Byakuya out of the Genjutsu. But for the most part, I believe Byakuya is too agile and perceptive and he would evade Itachi's chakra. And the Senbon Sakura would more than likely parry the Totsuka blade as they are both spiritual weapons. And as Byakuya has higher striking power than Itachi, the latter will be forced to keep his Susanoo up all the time. If the Yata mirror can change every one of its physical properties, then Itachi should be able to alter its size and shape to wrap the entire Susanoo in it. However, due to the chakra cost and stamina issues which come with the Mangekyo Sharingan, I don't think he'll be able to hold it for long. Byakuya should also be able to block the Amaterasu with his own Zanpakuto petals or with Kido barriers, or by using the Stealth Force's substitution technique to evade. Although if he uses Senbon Sakura to block Amaterasu, he would more than likely lose portions of his Bankai, as the flames will not stop burning, and he would more than likely have to shave off those portions of his Bankai which are burning. So I believe Itachi can win if he lands certain techniques in a timely fashion and sees them through before Byakuya responds. But for the most part, I believe this victory goes to Byakuya Kuchiki. Thank you all for watching. Let me know who you think will win in the comment sections. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like these types of analytical videos, and cheers.